The massive alien ship appeared above Earth on a Tuesday morning. It was 3 kilometers long and shaped like a black diamond. It hung in the sky over New York City, blocking the sun and casting a shadow over millions of people who stood in the streets, looking up with fear and wonder. Humanity had only discovered faster-than-light travel 18 months ago. They had built their own ships using a new technology called the gravity pulse drive. No aliens had helped them. No one had taught them. Human scientists had figured it out alone, working in laboratories and arguing over equations until they cracked the secret of bending space itself. Now the aliens had come to meet them. The ship broadcast a message in perfect English. It said that a diplomatic team would arrive at the United Nations building in 1 hour. The message was polite but firm. It was not a request. Secretary General Amar Okonkwo stood at the entrance of the UN building when the alien shuttle landed. She was a tall woman from Nigeria with gray hair and calm eyes. She had survived civil wars, political crises, and 3 assassination attempts. She was not easily frightened. The shuttle door opened and Ambassador Vethakai stepped out. He was terrifying to look at. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, with a body like a giant insect. He had 4 arms, 2 legs, and a head covered in compound eyes that shimmered like oil on water. His mouth was a collection of moving parts that clicked and scraped when he spoke. But his voice came out smooth and pleasant through a translation device around his neck. "Greetings, Secretary General," he said. "I am Ambassador Vethakai of the Galactic Concord. I represent 12 spacefaring species who have governed this region of the galaxy for over 10,000 years. We come to welcome humanity to the cosmic community." Amara nodded politely. "We are honored by your visit, Ambassador. Please come inside." The meeting took place in the Great Assembly Hall. Representatives from every nation on Earth watched as Vethakai presented what he called the standard integration terms for new species joining the galactic community. As he spoke, the blood drained from faces around the room. Humanity would pay a civilization debt equal to 40% of Earth's entire economic output for the next 300 years. This was payment for the privilege of existing in Concord-controlled space. All human faster-than-light technology would be surrendered immediately for safety evaluation. The Concord would decide if humans could ever have it back. Human expansion would be limited to 3 star systems, chosen by the Concord. Humans would not be allowed to colonize anywhere else. 50,000 Concord troops would be stationed on Earth permanently. They would serve as advisors to ensure humans followed the rules. If humanity refused these terms, the Concord would impose an economic blockade. No trade, no contact with other species. And if humans still refused after that, the Concord would take corrective action. Vethakai smiled, or made the expression his species used for smiling. "These terms are generous," he said. "Previous species have been given far less time to pay their debts. We recognize humanity's potential and wish to be fair." The hall was silent. Delegates sat frozen in their seats. Some had tears running down their faces. Others looked like they might vomit. General Marcus Chen of the United States Space Force leaned over to Secretary General Okonkwo. "We can't fight them," he whispered. "Our ships are toys compared to theirs. They could destroy every city on Earth in an hour." Amara said nothing. She watched Vethakai with steady eyes. The ambassador spread his 4 arms in a gesture of openness. "We understand this is much to process. We will give you 3 days to prepare your acceptance. Our ship will remain in orbit." He paused. "I strongly advise you not to do anything foolish. 47 species have faced this choice before you. 46 accepted and now thrive under Concord protection. 1 refused." "What happened to them?" Amar asked quietly. "They no longer exist." The next 3 days were chaos. Stock markets crashed around the world. Riots broke out in major cities. Religious leaders declared the end times had come. Military commanders held emergency meetings where they admitted the truth. Humanity could not win a war against the Concord, not even close. World leaders called Amara constantly, begging her to accept the terms. 300 years of debt is better than extinction, the president of France told her. "We have no choice," said the prime minister of Japan. "Think of the children," pleaded the president of Brazil. Amara listened to all of them. She read reports from scientists who analyzed the alien ship and confirmed it could destroy Earth without breaking a sweat. She watched footage of crying families on the news. She did not sleep for 2 days. On the third day, she called a meeting with her closest advisors. They sat around a table in a secure room deep beneath the UN building. "What do we do?" asked General Chen. "We have to accept. There's no other way." Amara looked at each person around the table. "Tell me something," she said. "In all of human history, when has surrender to a bully ever ended well?" No one answered. "They say 46 species accepted their terms," Amara continued. "They say those species thrive now. But what does that mean? It means they are slaves who have learned to smile. It means their children grow up knowing they are not free. It means every generation lives under the boot of someone else." "But we'll survive," someone said. "Will we?" Amara shook her head. "The humans who survive under those terms won't be us. They'll be something else. Something broken. I didn't fight my whole life for freedom just to hand it away because someone bigger than me said so." She stood up. "I'm going to refuse." The room erupted. People shouted. Some cried. General Chen slammed his fist on the table. "They'll kill us all." Amara waited for silence. When it came, she spoke softly. "Maybe, but I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And maybe, just maybe, they've never met anyone crazy enough to say no." 3 days after the ultimatum, Secretary General Amara Okonkwo stood before a camera and broadcast a message to the alien ship. "Ambassador Vethakai, the people of Earth thank you for your visit. We have considered your offer carefully. We respectfully decline all terms. Please leave our solar system within 72 hours. She paused. "We wish you safe travels." Then she turned off the camera. In orbit, Ambassador Vethakai stared at the message in complete confusion. His compound eyes blinked rapidly. His translators checked and rechecked the words. In 10,000 years, no species had ever said no. He didn't even know what to do next. The Council tried to extort humanity. Earth's response shocked the galaxy. The news of humanity's refusal spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. On 100 different worlds, aliens gathered around screens and communication devices to watch the recordings. They saw the small human woman with gray hair tell the mighty Concorde to leave. They heard her calm voice refusing terms that no species had ever refused before. Most of them thought the humans were insane. "They don't understand what they've done," said a Kashari merchant to his friends at a trading post near the galactic core. "The Concorde will crush them like insects." "Perhaps they are simply stupid," suggested a Vorn warrior. "Young species often are." "No," said an old Tellurian scholar who had spent his life studying new civilizations. "I've read their transmissions, studied their history. They're not stupid. There's something else entirely, something we haven't seen before." "What's that?" asked the merchant. The old scholar thought for a moment. "Stubborn," he finally said. "Unbelievably, impossibly stubborn." The Galactic Concorde did not take rejection well. Within 2 weeks, the Third Enforcement Fleet arrived in human space. 200 warships from 6 different species formed a wall of metal and firepower around the solar system. The fleet was commanded by High Admiral Kesoth of the Vorn hegemony, a reptilian creature with scales like black armor and eyes like yellow flames. Kesoth had crushed rebellions on 12 worlds. He had bombarded cities and burned continents. He was not known for mercy. His first action was to intercept 3 human colony ships that were traveling to a nearby star called Proxima Centauri. The ships carried 50,000 colonists, families with children, scientists, farmers, and dreamers who had volunteered to build humanity's first settlement among the stars. Now they were prisoners. "You see what happens when you defy us," Kesoth broadcast to Earth. "Your people float helpless in space. Your colonies will never be built. Submit now, and we will show mercy. Continue to resist, and we will show you what the Concorde does to those who disobey." On Earth, people watched the news in horror. The images of those 3 colony ships, surrounded by alien warships, played on every screen. Families of the colonists gathered outside government buildings, begging for something to be done. But what could be done? Earth's small fleet of 12 ships was nothing compared to the Concorde Armada. Human weapons were primitive by galactic standards. The situation seemed hopeless. something strange began to happen. Instead of falling into despair, humans started working. Factories that had been competing with each other suddenly shared resources. Scientists from rival countries began collaborating on secret projects. Old enemies sat down at tables and agreed to work together. The president of China called the president of the United States. "Whatever we've argued about doesn't matter anymore," she said. "We're all humans now. Let's act like it." Within a month, Earth had unified in ways that would have seemed impossible before. Every nation contributed resources. Every scientist shared knowledge. Every factory worked day and night. But they weren't building weapons. At least not the kind of weapons the Concorde expected. High Admiral Kessoth watched Earth through his sensors and felt confused. He saw thousands of small craft launching from the planet. Most of them headed toward the asteroid belt, the ring of rocks between Mars and Jupiter. Others scattered throughout the solar system, going to moons and empty regions of space. "What are they doing?" he asked his intelligence officers. "We believe they are gathering resources, Admiral," one officer reported. "Mining asteroids, collecting materials. Perhaps they hope to build a fleet." Kessoth laughed, a harsh barking sound. "Let them try. Even if they build 1,000 ships, they won't match our firepower. They're wasting their time." He decided to let the humans play with their rocks. It would make their eventual surrender even more satisfying. But something else puzzled him even more than the mining ships. Earth's entertainment broadcasts hadn't stopped. Humans were still playing sports games on television. They were still making music and comedy shows. They were still laughing and dancing as if they weren't surrounded by an alien fleet that could destroy them at any moment. "They're either brave or insane," Kessoth muttered. "Perhaps both, Admiral," his second-in-command suggested. 3 months passed. The blockade held firm. No human ship could enter or leave the solar system without Concorde permission. Earth's economy suffered. Food supplies grew tight in some regions. The pressure was building. Kessoth decided it was time to end this game. He broadcast a final ultimatum to Earth. "You have 30 days to surrender. If you do not, we will begin orbital bombardment of your military installations. After that, we will target your cities. You cannot win this fight. Accept reality and save your people." The response came not from Secretary General Okonkwo, but from a television broadcast. The Concorde's translators picked up a human sporting event, something called football, being played in a massive stadium filled with screaming fans. At halftime, a message appeared on the stadium screen. "Dear Admiral Kessoth, we're busy right now. Check back later." The crowd roared with laughter. Kessoth stared at the broadcast in disbelief. His scales flushed with anger. "They mock us," he growled. "They actually mock us." "Admiral," his second-in-command said carefully, "perhaps this is some kind of strategy. Perhaps they want us to attack in anger and make mistakes." "Then they will be disappointed," Kessoth said, his voice cold. "On day 31, we advance. No more games, no more waiting. We will teach these humans what happens when you defy the Galactic Concorde. On Earth." Secretary General Okonkwo watched the same broadcast in a bunker deep underground. General Chen sat beside her, looking nervous. "That was risky," he said. "Making fun of them like that." Amara smiled slightly. "We needed to buy time, and we needed them to underestimate us." "Did it work?" Amara looked at a screen showing reports from across the solar system. Thousands of dots marked human activity in the asteroid belt, around Jupiter's moons, in the dark spaces between planets. "We'll find out in 30 days, she said. "How's the network?" 92% complete, Chen replied. "We'll be ready." "Good." Amara leaned back in her chair. "They think we've been playing games for 3 months. They think we've been wasting time gathering rocks and watching football. And what have we actually been doing?" Amara's smile grew wider, but there was something fierce in her eyes. "We've been building a trap, the biggest trap in human history, and in 30 days we're going to close it." Chen looked at her with a mixture of hope and fear. "Will it work?" "I don't know," Amara admitted, "but I know one thing for certain." "What's that?" "They've never fought anything like us before." The Council tried to extort humanity. Earth's response shocked the Galaxy Day. 31 arrived. High Admiral Kessoth stood on the bridge of his flagship. the eternal dominion, watching Earth grow larger on his view screen. Around him, 200 warships of the 3rd Enforcement Fleet moved in perfect formation toward the small blue planet. "All ships report ready, Admiral," his second-in-command announced. "Weapons charged. Targeting systems locked on human military bases." "Good." Kesoth clasped his clawed hands behind his back. "Begin the advance. Today we teach these humans the cost of defiance." The fleet moved forward, passing the orbit of Jupiter, then Saturn. Each hour brought them closer to Earth. Kesoth felt satisfied. The humans had been given every chance to surrender. They had chosen foolishness instead. Now they would pay the price. In a few hours, this would all be over. Another primitive species would learn its place in the galaxy. The fleet passed the orbit of Mars, and then everything went wrong. Every sensor on every ship screamed warnings at the same moment. Lights flashed red across bridge consoles throughout the fleet. Officers shouted in confusion. Alarms blared. "Report!" Kesoth demanded. "What's happening?" His sensor officer's voice shook with fear. "Admiral, we're detecting energy signatures everywhere. Thousands of them. They weren't there a moment ago." "That's impossible. Show me." The view screen changed to show a tactical display of the solar system. Kesoth's yellow eyes went wide. Red dots had appeared throughout the system. In the asteroid belt, around the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, in the empty spaces between planets. Thousands upon thousands of red dots, each one marking an energy signature that hadn't existed 5 seconds ago. "Where did they come from?" Kesoth demanded. "Unknown, Admiral. Our sensors never detected them. They were completely invisible until they activated." Kesoth felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Fear. "What are they?" Before anyone could answer, a human transmission cut through every communication channel in the fleet. Secretary General Amara Okonkwo's face appeared on every screen. "Admiral Kesoth," she said calmly, "I need you to listen very carefully. Your fleet is currently positioned inside the targeting range of 12,000 gravity pulse weapons platforms. Each platform can accelerate an asteroid to 3% of light speed. At that velocity, a rock the size of a car hits with the force of a nuclear bomb." She paused to let that sink in. "Right now, 47 separate platforms have your flagship locked as their target. 230 platforms are tracking your other ships. We also have electromagnetic pulse arrays that can disable your electronics and kinetic weapons hidden in locations your sensors cannot detect." Kesoth's scales had turned pale. "You're bluffing. You couldn't have built all this in 3 months." "We didn't build weapons, Admiral. We built factories. Automated construction systems that built more systems, which built more systems. Humans are very good at making machines that make other machines. We've been doing it for centuries." The view screen showed a section of the asteroid belt. What had looked like ordinary rocks suddenly revealed themselves to be complex structures covered in equipment and weapons. "We hid everything using stealth technology," Amara continued. "Humans have spent 100 years hiding submarines from each other in our oceans, hiding aircraft from radar. We're very good at not being seen when we don't want to be seen. Your sensors were designed to detect alien technology. They weren't designed to detect us." Kesoth gripped his command chair so hard his claws dug into the metal. "Even if this is true, you can't destroy our entire fleet." "Probably not," Amara agreed. "You'd likely destroy many of our platforms before we finished you. Some of your ships might escape. But let me be clear about something, Admiral." Her eyes hardened. "If you fire a single shot at Earth, we won't just destroy your fleet. We'll accelerate asteroids toward every Concord homeworld. Our weapons travel at 3% of light speed. It would take years for them to arrive. But your people wouldn't be able to stop them all. Millions would die. Maybe billions." She leaned forward. "We don't want that. We really, truly don't want that. Humans are tired of death. We've had enough war to last 1,000 lifetimes. But we will not be slaves. We will not bow to bullies. And if you force us to choose between freedom and peace, we will burn the galaxy down before we kneel." The bridge was silent. Every Concord officer stared at the screens, showing thousands of hidden weapons, all pointed at them. "She's insane," someone whispered. "No," Kesoth said slowly. "She's not insane. She means every word." A new voice joined the communication. Dr. Chen Wei, Earth's chief scientist. He was an elderly man with kind eyes and a gentle smile that seemed completely wrong for the situation. Admiral, I'd like to explain something, he said. Your species and the other Concord members have had advanced technology for 10,000 years. You've optimized it, perfected it, made it efficient and reliable. He adjusted his glasses. Humans have only had modern technology for about 500 years. But do you know what we spent most of that time doing? Trying to kill each other. We invented new weapons every generation. We developed strategies and counter-strategies. We built machines of death that would horrify your worst nightmares. Dr. Chen's smile remained, but his eyes were serious. We're very, very good at war, Admiral. Not because we're evil, but because we had no choice. We were our own worst enemy for all of human history. Every generation faced threats that forced us to adapt or die. We learned to hide. We learned to strike from shadows. We learned to turn everything into a weapon. He spread his hands. We don't want to fight you. We really don't. We'd rather make friends, share knowledge, and explore the universe together. But if you force us to fight, please understand. You're facing a species that has been practicing war since before your civilization existed. Admiral Kesseth stared at his tactical display. The thousands of hidden weapons, the trapped fleet, the calm woman on the screen who had just threatened to burn the galaxy. His second-in-command spoke quietly. Admiral, what do we do? Kesseth thought about his orders. He thought about conquered honor and tradition. He thought about the 47 species who had surrendered before. Then he thought about what those asteroids would do to his homeworld. All ship, he said slowly. Hold position. Do not fire. He looked at the screen, at Amara Okonkwo's face. Secretary General, it appears we have much to discuss. Amara nodded. Yes, Admiral, we do. But let's discuss it as equals, not as master and slave. I am not authorized to negotiate as equals. The conquered does not. Then get new authorization, Amara interrupted, because the old rules don't apply anymore. Humanity is not going to disappear. We're not going to submit. We're going to be part of this galaxy whether the conquered likes it or not. The only question is whether we'll be partners or enemies. She stood up from her chair. I'd prefer partners. I think you would too. So let's start this conversation over, Admiral. From the beginning. As equals. Kesseth was silent for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. Very well, Secretary General. Let us talk. Across the galaxy, beings who had been watching the confrontation sat in stunned silence. The mighty Concord, which had dominated known space for millennia, had just been stopped by a species that had discovered fire a geological eye blink ago. And for the first time in 10,000 years, something new was happening. The Council tried to extort humanity, Earth's response. Shock the Galaxy Ambassador Vethakai returned to Earth 2 weeks after the standoff. This time he came alone, without warships or threats. His shuttle landed at the same place as before, outside the United Nations building, but everything felt different. Secretary General Amara Okonkwo met him at the entrance. She noticed that the tall insectoid moved more carefully now. His compound eyes didn't shine with the same confidence they had before. Ambassador, she said, welcome back. Secretary General. Vethakai's voice was quieter than she remembered. I confess I am not sure how to proceed. In 10,000 years, I have never had a conversation like this one. Neither have I, Amar admitted, but that's okay. We can figure it out together. They walked into the building side by side, something that would have seemed impossible a month ago. The negotiations began in a small conference room, not the grand assembly hall. Amara wanted this to feel personal, not political. She sat across from Vethakai with only a translator and 2 advisors on each side. Before we discuss terms, Vethakai said, I must understand something. Why did you refuse us? Every other species submitted. They understood that resistance was futile. Why didn't you? Amara thought carefully before answering. How much do you know about human history, Ambassador? Very little, I'm afraid. We usually don't study species we expect to integrate quickly. Let me tell you a story. Amara leaned back in her chair. Thousands of years ago, there was a small group of humans who lived as slaves to a powerful empire. They were beaten, worked to death, and treated like animals. Everyone told them to accept their fate. Resistance seemed impossible. She smiled slightly. But they didn't accept it. They escaped. They wandered in the wilderness for 40 years rather than return to slavery. Many died. Many suffered. But in the end, they built their own nation, their own culture, their own destiny. That seems inefficient, Vethakai said. They could have survived comfortably as slaves. Survived, yes, but not lived. Amara's eyes were intense. Ambassador, humans have a saying, give me liberty or give me death. It's not just words to us. Our entire history is the story of people choosing death over submission, choosing suffering over chains, choosing uncertain freedom over comfortable slavery. She leaned forward. Every human child learns about heroes who stood against tyrants, even when they couldn't win. We celebrate those who resist, even in defeat. That's who we are. That's what your Concord never understood. Vethakai was silent for a long moment, processing this. Finally, he spoke. Your species is very strange. We know, Amara laughed, but we're also very stubborn and very creative and very, very determined. I am beginning to understand that. The negotiations continued for days. Vethakai asked questions about human history, culture, philosophy, and psychology. He seemed genuinely curious, not just gathering intelligence. Amara answered honestly, hiding nothing. In return, she asked questions of her own, and what she learned surprised her. The Concord is dying, Vethakai admitted one evening, after a particularly long session. Our ruling species, the 12 oldest civilizations, have been in decline for centuries. Our birth rates have collapsed. Our scientists produce fewer innovations each generation. Our artists create nothing new. Why? Amara asked. Because we have everything we need. We solved all our problems long ago. There's nothing left to struggle for, nothing left to overcome. His mandibles clicked sadly. Struggle creates strength. Comfort creates weakness. We became so comfortable that we forgot how to grow. So the extortion system keeps us alive. Young species work hard. They create new technologies, new ideas, new art. We take their best and use it to maintain our civilization. Vethakai's compound eyes looked away in shame. It's parasitism. We know it, but we didn't know any other way. Amara sat quietly, thinking. Then she said something that changed everything. What if there was another way? What do you mean? What if instead of taking from younger species, you learned from them, worked with them, let them challenge you and push you to grow again? Vethakai made a sound like bitter laughter. The old powers would never allow it. They're afraid of change. Some of them are, Amar agreed, but not all. And the ones who are most afraid, they're also the weakest. They're holding on to power through fear because they have nothing else left. She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the night sky. Ambassador, humanity isn't interested in destroying the conquered. We're interested in changing it. We want to offer something your civilization hasn't had in thousands of years. What's that? Amara turned to face him. Hope, partnership, the chance to grow again. Not as masters and slaves, but as equals working towards something greater. The old powers will fight this. Yes, some of them will. But others might see it as a chance for survival. Real survival, not just slow decline. Amara sat back down. Humanity is offering the Galactic Conquered a choice. You can keep trying to dominate and extort younger species until you fade away completely. Or you can join us in building something new. Vethakai was silent for a very long time. Then he said, I must consult with the Conquered Council. This is not what anyone expected. Take your time, Amara said. We're not going anywhere. 2 weeks later, Vethakai returned with news that surprised no one who understood politics. The Conquered has split, he announced to the UN Assembly. 3 species, the Vorn hegemony, the Kashari Empire, and the militant orthodoxy of Reth, have rejected any change to the old system. They demand humanity's destruction, regardless of cost. Murmurs of fear ran through the audience. However, Vethakai continued, 4 species have accepted humanity's proposal for equal partnership. They see this as an opportunity for renewal, not a threat. And the other 5, Amar asked? Undecided. They are waiting to see what happens next. General Chen leaned over to Amara. The three hostile species, do they have enough military power to attack us alone? Approximately 80 warships, Vethakai answered, having heard the question. A significant force, but far smaller than before? Amara nodded slowly. So we've cut the Concord in three. Good start. You planned this, Vethakai said, realization dawning. You knew the offer would split us? We hoped it would, Amara admitted. Humans have a lot of experience with empires. They always look stronger than they are. The moment you show them a crack, the whole thing falls apart. The hostile species will still attack. They're too proud and too afraid to accept change. We know. Amara's expression was calm but serious. We're ready for them. Your hidden weapons won't be enough against a determined assault. Who said our weapons were the only thing we were hiding? Amara smiled. Ambassador, those 3 months of preparation weren't just about building platforms in the asteroid belt. We've been busy everywhere, including around Proxima Centauri. Vethakai's compound eyes widened. The colony ships. We thought they were helpless. Yes, you did. That was the idea. For the first time, Vethakai felt something that might have been admiration for the strange, dangerous, impossible humans. You never stop planning, do you? Amara shook her head. We can't afford to. We've been fighting for survival our whole existence. It's just what we do. She extended her hand, a human gesture of partnership that Vethakai had learned about during his studies. Welcome to the Alliance, Ambassador. Things are about to get interesting. Vethakai reached out with one of his forearms and grasped her hand carefully. His grip was surprisingly gentle. I suspect, Secretary General, that with humans involved, things will never be boring again. Probably not, Amara agreed, but at least we'll be boring together. Across the galaxy, powers that had ruled for millennia felt the ground shifting beneath them. An age was ending, and something new, something terrifying and wonderful, and completely unpredictable, was about to begin. The Council tried to extort humanity. Earth's response shocked the galaxy. The traditionalist fleet attacked at dawn. 80 warships from 3 species jumped into the Proxima Centauri system, weapons hot and ready. Their target was simple: destroy the 3 human colony ships that had been stranded there for months. Kill 50,000 humans. Show the galaxy that defiance had consequences. High Commander Vetharak of the Vorn hegemony led the assault. Unlike Admiral Kesoth, he had not been intimidated by humanity's trap in the Sol system. He believed the humans had been lucky once. They would not be lucky again. All ships advance, he ordered. Destroy the colony vessels. Leave no survivors. His fleet swept toward the 3 human ships, which hung motionless in space near Proxima Centauri's dim red glow. They looked exactly like what they were supposed to be: helpless civilian transports with no weapons and no hope. Vetharak smiled with sharp teeth. This would be easy. Then the colony ships opened fire. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries. The 3 helpless civilian vessels had been secretly transformed during the blockade. Using materials mined from asteroids and equipment smuggled from Earth, the colonists had converted their ships into something unprecedented. Mobile weapon platforms covered in railguns, missile launchers, and electromagnetic pulse systems. But more importantly, the colonists had spent months training for exactly this moment. Human military history was full of stories about civilians becoming soldiers when they had no choice. Farmers who became warriors, shopkeepers who became snipers, teachers who became tacticians. The colonists had read those stories. Now they lived them. The battle lasted 6 hours. The traditionalist fleet had superior numbers, superior technology, and thousands of years of military tradition. The humans had none of that. What they had was something else. They had unpredictability. Concord military doctrine was based on rules developed over millennia. Ships fought in formations. Attacks followed patterns. Victory came through overwhelming force applied logically. Humans didn't fight that way. Their ships scattered in random directions instead of holding formation. They fired weapons in bursts that seemed to make no sense, until 3 of those bursts converged on a single enemy ship simultaneously. They pretended to retreat, then suddenly turned and attacked their pursuers. They sent confusing signals and fake transmissions. They did things that no sane military commander would ever do. And it worked. The traditionalist captains had no training for chaos. They didn't know how to respond to enemies who seemed to have no strategy at all. Their formations broke apart as they tried to chase targets that wouldn't stay still. Their superior numbers became a weakness as their ships got in each other's way. By the third hour, the traditionalist fleet had lost a quarter of their ships. By the fifth hour, they had lost half. High Commander Vetharak watched his tactical display with growing horror. His fleet was being destroyed by 3 civilian ships and 50,000 humans who had been colonists 2 days ago. "This is impossible," he whispered. "This is impossible." One of his officers spoke carefully. "High Commander, perhaps we should retreat, reorganize, attack again later." Vetharak wanted to refuse. His pride screamed at him to keep fighting. But he looked at his display, 32 ships destroyed, many more damaged, and he knew the truth. They had lost. "All ships," he said, his voice heavy with defeat, "withdraw from the system." The surviving traditionalist vessels jumped away, leaving behind debris and bodies in the ruins of their confidence. The 3 human colony ships floated in space, battered but alive. On their bridges, exhausted colonists hugged each other and cried with relief. They had won. News of the Battle of Proxima spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. The story grew with each retelling. 3 civilian ships had defeated 80 warships. Farmers and teachers had beaten professional soldiers. A species that had only discovered space travel 18 months ago had humiliated civilizations that had ruled the stars for millennia. The 5 undecided species watched, calculated, and made their choice. One by one, they sent messages to Earth requesting diplomatic discussions. The Traditionalist Alliance collapsed. The Vorn hegemony's government fell within a month, replaced by moderates who wanted peace. The Kashari Empire sent secret communications asking about terms. Even the militant orthodoxy of Reth, the most extreme of the hostile species, began to quietly retreat from their hardline position. No one wanted to fight humans anymore. 6 months after the Battle of Proxima, representatives from 15 species gathered on Earth to sign a new agreement. It wasn't called the Galactic Concord anymore. That name carried too much history, too much pain, too much shame. They called it the Galactic Compact. Secretary General Amara Okonkwo stood before the assembly and read the terms that would shape the galaxy's future. No reparations would be demanded from any species. The old debts were canceled. Every species would have full control over their own worlds and systems. No more advisors, no more garrisons, no more masters. Trade and cultural exchange would be open and free. Anyone could travel anywhere. Anyone could learn anything. If any species attacked another, all signatories would respond together. Aggression would be met with united resistance. And most importantly, extortion, blockades, and forced integration were permanently banned. Never again would a young species face the choice that humanity had faced. The representatives signed one by one. Some did so eagerly, others hesitated, still unsure about this new order where they weren't automatically superior. But they all signed in the end, because they had all seen what happened when they didn't. After the ceremony, Ambassador Vethakai found Amara standing alone on a balcony, looking up at the stars. "You could have demanded much more," he said, joining her. "After what we did to you, after the blockade, the threats, the hostages, you could have made us pay." Amara shook her head. "We thought about it. Some of my advisors wanted revenge. They wanted to make the conquered suffer the way other species had suffered." "Why didn't you?" Amara was quiet for a moment. "Because we've tried that. Humans have thousands of years of history. We've won wars and made enemies pay. We've demanded reparations and imposed harsh terms. Do you know what happened every time? What? More war. Always more war. The losers grew bitter. Their children grew up hating the winners. Eventually, they got strong enough to fight back, and the whole cycle started again." She turned to face Vethakai. "We're tired of that cycle, Ambassador. We want something different." "What?" "Friends," Amara smiled. "Real friends. Allies who trust us because we treated them fairly, not because they're afraid of us. A galaxy where species work together because they want to, not because they have to." Vethakai's compound eyes shimmered. That seems idealistic. Maybe, but ideals are worth fighting for. They're worth dying for. She looked back at the stars. Humans have always believed that. It's what makes us human. 5 years later, the Galactic Compact had grown to 31 species. Human universities were filled with alien students eager to learn from the strange, creative creatures who had changed everything. Human music played on 1,000 worlds. Human art hung in alien galleries. Human diplomats, known for their impossible combination of stubbornness and kindness, had become the galaxy's most trusted mediators. Ambassador Vetha Kai had retired from diplomacy. He now taught at a university on his homeworld, lecturing young diplomats about human studies, a field that hadn't existed 10 years ago. One day, a student asked him a question that had puzzled beings across the galaxy. "Professor, why didn't the humans conquer everyone when they had the chance? After Proxima, everyone was afraid of them. They could have built an empire." Vethakai clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "I asked Secretary General Okonkwo that same question years ago." "Do you know what she said?" The students leaned forward, waiting. "She said, 'We've tried empire. It never works. The only thing that lasts is friendship, and that has to be earned, not demanded.'" He paused, letting the words sink in. "I have studied 47 species who faced the Concord's ultimatum," Vethakai continued. 46 submitted. One was destroyed. Humanity was the first to simply refuse, and then offer us something better. "What was that?" a student asked. Vethakai looked out the window at the sky, where human ships now traveled freely among the stars alongside ships from dozens of other species. He remembered the fear he had felt when he first delivered the ultimatum to Earth. He remembered the confusion when they refused. He remembered the slow, surprising journey from enemy to colleague to friend. "Hope," he said finally. "They offered us hope, and somehow, against all logic and all history, they delivered on that promise." The students were silent, processing this. "The humans have a saying," Vethakai added. "The best revenge is living well." I didn't understand it at first. Now I think I do. They could have destroyed us. Instead, they made us better. He turned back to his students. "That is why humanity shocked the galaxy. Not because they fought back. Others have fought back. But because they won, and then they chose to forgive. They chose to build instead of destroy. They chose hope over hate." He clicked his mandibles in what humans would recognize as a smile. "And that, young ones, is something no species has ever done before." Outside the window, the stars glittered with possibility, and somewhere among them, humans and aliens worked side by side, building a future that neither could have imagined alone. It wasn't perfect, it never would be, but it was better than what came before. And for a galaxy that had known only power and fear for 10,000 years, better was enough. Better was everything.